When I first got into resin printing, calibration tests were and are honestly frustrating. I kept printing them, but I never felt like I was getting clear, actionable information. It just felt like printing another random and useless model. So I decided to design my own test, something simple that would actually tell me what I needed to know. This test has 3 sections. First, the exposure check. Under it, there's a rectangular pattern with gaps and filled areas that match my support sizes. It starts at 0.1 millimeters on the left, increases gradually to 0.5 millimeters in the center, and then goes back down to 0.1 millimeters. Second, there's a 20 by 10 millimeter calibration rectangle in the middle. And third, the supports section. The supports are divided into 2 types: cylindrical ones on top, which I personally prefer, and square ones on the bottom, in case anyone uses those. Here's how I use it. I start with the recommended exposure settings for my resin, then fine-tune from there. In the exposure section, my goal is simple. All intersections should be connected, but not overly merged. If I see gaps, that's clear underexposure. If everything is heavily fused, that's too much exposure. Then I grab my calipers and measure the center rectangle. It should read exactly 20 by 10 millimeters. That gives me a precise way to dial things in. Once I'm happy with the exposure and the measurements, I finally look at the support section, and that's the part that really matters. It tells me the smallest support size I can actually print reliably. In this example, I printed 2 tests just to compare results. I'm using Elegoo ABS-like V3 resin at 3.5 seconds exposure on my Elegoo Saturn S2 8K. Looking closely, I can see slightly merged corners and a few tiny, almost invisible gaps. That's perfectly acceptable to me. When I measure the rectangle, it reads 20.03 by 10.02 millimeters. I could fine-tune it further, maybe drop to 3.45 or 3.4 seconds, but honestly, I'm very happy with this. Now for the key result. Anything under 0.25 millimeters does not print reliably. Only 2 0.2 millimeter supports printed in both tests, but 0.25 millimeter supports, those print consistently, even on very small details. Both tests completed them without any issues. This small test gives me nearly all the information I need for successful prints. Even 14-hour prints complete without problems, including those tiny 0.25 millimeter supports. One last important tip: be very careful during cleaning. These supports are delicate. There's no need to cure this test, just clean it in IPA. Use a soft brush only on the exposure and rectangle sections. Then hold the model and gently move it back and forth in IPA to wash resin away from the supports. Don't touch the supports with a brush or any tools. That's it. Very simple test, but extremely useful.